Her Excellency Yasoja, thank you for giving me the floor. And I'm using this time to kind of give you a flavor of where we are, what the government is doing, and what's our scope, what's our purpose, and probably give you a chance to directly ask me some questions as well. So I would start with, I have few notes so that I won't miss anything, and I will also ensure that I finish on time. So most of you would have known me. So as those who don't know, I was a citizen like you, and I was urged and pushed to leave Sri Lanka because it was not conducive for my children to live. But few of us decided to stay back and do the final battle. And 3 years ago I was on streets, but working for MS Holdings as a capacity of general manager, leading data science and analytics. And this is what life has in store for me now. So since joining of politics and seeing through the change that people wanted and being able to obtain that change where most of you have longed for years and years, including my father. So I think as a generation we are lucky to go through this phase. Now this phase is a critical juncture we passed with the election, but it does not mean it ends there. It's probably the start of a change. So we have seen countries go through revolutions, and some have succeeded, some have failed. Some have been able to achieve the aspirations of the people of that country, and I'm pretty sure we are on right path. So if I take you back few years, there was a reason why people struggled and came to streets. Number one is we wanted a country with where the law is upheld, where the justice is served. We wanted a country which is not poor and pushing people away from the country, but keeping people in the country. We also wanted a country prospering like this country with the resources we have. But unfortunately, none of those three were delivered to us due to, I wouldn't blame politics as such. Politics is a reflection of citizens. And I think we were not organized, we were not vocal, we were not fighting enough for the last few decades, I think. So in light of that, that is why we wanted a political change, hoping everything else will fall in line. Now we have done the political change. And the context of this political change also need to be very well understood. So this particular change where NPP took in power, a left-oriented party, a party who was 3% party, who were never expected to win, came to power, not because by choice. It was because of the circumstances. Because of the country got bankrupt. Because people came out and showed their disregard to the rulers. It is that point only we got the power. So we need to understand we never got a stable economy. We never got an economy that is driving forward. We never got a legal system or a government service that is efficient and productive. So first we need to admit where we start from. That is the starting point of this government. And what we presented to people, at least for the majority, at least I would say for the 40% who voted in the presidential election, we said we will bring change. From how? Number one, being a policy-driven politics. That means we have principles, values, and policies that we will always abide by that when we take decisions. So that's something that we never experienced, because we were also continuously experiencing individual decisions without a policy, decisions without values, and we had to live through that. And we said we will bring a new political culture, a culture where politician is not driven by individual gains and benefits and self-centered needs, but more politicians will be predominantly public-oriented and looking at citizens' needs than their personal requirements. I think that culture we experience, I can guarantee you that is already established. And then the economic roadmap. We all knew the routes that we took. Compared to the routes of economic transformation other countries took, we have fallen behind. And we had to make a significant dent in how we look at things. The economic policies, actions that has been taken for the last 30 years only gave us $86 billion GDP and a trade deficit of 8 billion, and allowing our mothers and sisters to go abroad and send some money to live, right? So that is the economy. So obviously a transformation in the economy was expected. So when the government is formed, I think within a month, President came out and gave a very good speech, with all these facts and figures and views, just to say that we will focus on 3 things. Now that is why I'm trying to emphasize. So whilst we have thousands of expectations of the new government, the government clearly says we have only 3 focus areas. One is elevation of poverty, right? We have to end poverty at any cost, right? So that means whatever we do, we are looking at ways and means of reducing the number of people who get assassinated, right? So whatever we do, it has to create economic value where the poverty is elevated over a period of time in a faster way. And we said this country needs a transformation into digital. So that is the second priority, where digital can bring us most of the things that we are expecting. Number 1, being transparent and efficient, the corruption will go away within few years. And digital will bring us efficiency and productivity, which we are all looking for from the government service. And the digital transformation also will give us an enormous opportunity in the economy to grow digital economy beyond what we have. So basically digital is number 2 priority. When we say everything is digital, comes number 1 when we do anything else, right? And then the last piece is the clean Sri Lanka. I know when you say clean Sri Lanka, people have little frown faces. We don't understand what this clean Sri Lanka means. Obviously, we admit that how we pitched it, how we brought it out was not at the standard of a NPP government. So there are laps in how we communicated it, but it's basically a transformation in the mindset. It is not about only cleaning the roads and the streets, but also how do we start thinking differently as a citizen? How do we start thinking as a student? How do we start thinking as a government servant? So it's basically a transformation in how we think. So these are the 3 things that we will drive as a government, right? So in setting up, coming up to these 6 months, what were our main challenges, right? So the first challenge was us to ensure that we are stabilizing the economy, because everybody's expectation from the opposition to even from the people who voted us, they said, "Megolanta therenne. These guys don't understand economy. They can't speak English." And that is what, right? That is the narrative. And every single opposition leader, including Harshad Silva, expected us to fail in the economy. But that was the greatest challenge. We had to get the debt restructuring done by December. We did it by 28th of December. We had to get the IMF 3rd tranche signed off and moving to the 4th. In February, we've done that. We were expected to present a budget with thousands of expectations whilst being within the framework of having a 2.3 positive primary balance. And we did that. All 3 of those things were done. And when it comes to the inflation, the exchange rate, the interest rate, everything is stable for economy to thrive. So you talk to any businessman in Sri Lanka today, with heart of hearts they will tell, this is wonderful than what we expected. Because the expectation inside them, they felt, these guys might flunk this, right? So that was the greatest challenge we had. And at the same time, we were expected to see a positivity in our external sector. Because we are in a debt crisis, we are looking at our reserves, we wanted to see a surge in tourism, it happened. We wanted the surge in the inward remittances, it happened. So basically, if you really look at it, both the two challenges we had to ensure that the fiscal discipline and the balances and the budgets are presented in the framework, whilst ensuring the external sector is progressing and growing, those were the two challenges the new government had, right? But I know there is no credit for it, but still it has happened. So if you really go back to it, but that was very challenging. So where the president's mind time, the senior leaders' mind time was on that, to ensure that happens. Because if we failed in that, there would have been another change in the system. Because the ones who were against us, who was not for the system change, was expecting the economy to fall. So somehow we have got the blessings of the IMF, the World Bank, the ADB, everybody is working pretty fine, including all the foreign countries. China, the India, the Middle East, the US, to Australia, inviting people like us. They are very positive about this change. So this is what you don't hear in Facebook. This is what you won't hear in the TV. This is what you won't hear from the 20% of the people who hate this change. There is 20% who's not benefited from this change. And they will keep talking bad about incidents, right? But the context is this. So the differences that we have made, I'll start from my ministry. So Ministry of Industries and Entrepreneurship, have you heard about it earlier? Who was the minister? Lanka කර්මාන්ත නග්ගපු මීට කලින් ඇමතිතුමා කවුද? Because you don't remember, nothing significantly has happened. Either good or bad, right? So it was Ramesh Patirana just before us, and then Badulle, Chamara Sampath, and දැන් හොයන්නේ මේ දවස්වල මැටි ඇමති ප්‍රසන්න රණවීර. Right? It's okay, but that was what they had, and they have given portfolios. So, but basically, the Ministry of Industries is expected to drive entrepreneurship and industrialization. So, therefore, there are various strong institutions which nobody knew in the country. The IDB's role is enormous, established in 1991 through the Act to transform country into industrial revolution. Nothing has happened significantly. NEDA is a national entrepreneurship development authority. It's authority, but only 70 million allocated for a year, right? Then we have said small enterprise development division, which was under the sports ministry. We have National Productivity Secretariat, which every other country has used to transform the economy, was under Labour Ministry and nobody knew about it. EDB was somewhere else. So we brought all these institutions together under one wing. That's a change. And getting all of their leaders to work together in one common agenda, that's a change, right? So basically, getting the SME framework done, which will be published in July, is a change that we do. But you wouldn't see it on the news. You wouldn't see it on Facebook, right? And similarly, transportation is transforming. I think that sometimes it's much on the media. Bimal is doing an amazing job, because transportation is the core of economy. Whatever you do, if you don't fix transportation, the country won't grow. So whether it's CTB to railways to roads to bus stations to restrooms to everything is getting fixed if you really look at the data, right? And then huge transformation in technology, which we never envisioned. The entire government payments to citizens to government will go online within next 6 months. Already 50 institutions have come on board. We never expected to pay our fine to cops online and get, move away from that, but now we can do it. These are changes, right? And then education is reforming, and the new education policy will come in 2026. Our children, I think the younger children that was pressurized to Shishatha and all that will change over a period of time, because the primary schools are getting built. 25 model primary schools are getting built now, so that the secondary schools and the primary schools will be mapped like feeding schools. So you don't have to worry about Shishatha, you will get a proper school. But we can't get rid of it for a while, but over time it will happen. So skills like innovation, critical thinking, problem solving will come into curriculum. From grade 9 onwards, you don't have to worry about your O-levels. You will have 9 odd professional, vocational skills to move on. These changes are going to happen. This is the change that the policy book entails. But every ministry is doing each of their tasks based on the policy. But sometimes it's not tangibly visible on the ground. So that's the reality. So the legal reforms, right? The amount of legal reforms that took place within the last 6 months, we can list it down if you really want, right? We are strengthening the CRBOC. I don't know how many of you follow that FB page. You can, if you just follow it today, you can count about 70 government officials going to jail within last 6 months. This is something that didn't happen, right? We brought in an act which is on the possession of illicit assets, and how do you take people to courts on it. It's working already. Early, the government has to prove whether this asset belongs to you or not. It took ages, years. Now with the new act, you have to prove it's yours. And if you can't prove it, government will take it. So it's already taking place. So at the same time, that is also enabling our tax collection, because no sooner you say this is my asset, you have to tell how you earned for it, and you have to show your tax file. So similarly, the huge changes are taking place in legal side also. And obviously there are delays in certain cases because of the complexity of the case. And don't even think for a while, Andhra Disanayaka spent 30 years of his life to leave these people scot-free. The investigations are happening, but some are very sensitive. You can't expose it out. Some are very complex, but things are happening. Right, so the changes are taking, but there's a general view that we are slow. Is that the general understanding? It's a narrative that's been created. We are slow, but the truth of the matter is we are also slow from the perspective of the majority who voted, not for the 43% who consciously voted, but for we call it that floating piece, who voted for other parties and finally last minute decided to vote as yes. For them it's slow. Why? For the first time for the last 20 years, a budget is getting approved in March of a year, on the 3rd month of a year. So that means we didn't had any money to spend for 3 months after power. Budgets were approved in April. We sent the proposals in May. Approvals for the proposals have come in June. Now only we are actually udulu paharakpat gahandu puluwan then thawa. Right? It's a process. We are not a government who will derail all those processes and use the money of the government and spend it lavishly in bokus and palangs. That was not our expectation. To do it properly through a plan, get the right approval. So it takes time. So yes, for some people, nothing has happened on the ground, true, in their view. Right? So the opposition is using it to say that yes, no, nothing is happening. So many things are happening. Right? And then if you really summarize all these things, the things that the opposition expected to happen badly to the country. One is the economic stability. I told you about it. Now we are economically stable and we are moving from a stability to growth pace. That is where we all have to do various things to ensure that we grow fast, right? Political stability. So something this country always lacked, because most of our government for the past 15 years has been coalitions, where the one person pulls the trigger, the government falls. Now we have a stable government with 159 MPs. Nothing's gonna touch this. And now we have a very strong local system. The local governments, the majority, I think 200 odd is won by the MP. So it was a tough one on the local government, I'll come to that. But the economic stability, at least for 4 years, is there. And we think it's beyond that because we don't see any opposition, formidable opposition, forming a political alliance or a party to challenge us. I'm not taking it for granted, but there is no factual evidence to say Sajith or Anil or any of these political parties can form a formidable force to challenge us. And then international stability. One of the biggest accusations for the new government was, you don't speak English, how do you communicate? We kept on saying people communicate with sign language. Right? That's how the world has evolved. Right? So far, all our leaders, especially ministers, have been able to communicate very well with the international community, institutions, embassies, and we have got a lot of support from UNDP to the World Bank to different government embassies to even, I think, as I speak, my minister is in the economic forum in China. Right? So we are doing that piece very nicely. So that is stable. Right? There's no countries seeing negative about Sri Lanka now. Everybody is positively seeing. And the business confidence. Right? So you, as I said, you speak to any businessman, they would again say things are slow, but they have done what they were expected to do in stabilizing the economy. Right? So the business confidence have gone up from 56 to 76, I saw at LMD article. Right? So whilst anybody can negate what has not happened, there are things that has happened to allow us to move forward within 6 months. And then the things that we are criticized for. Generally, before you ask the questions, I thought of I'll share some of those things. So we faced little difficulty in essential goods during the last 6 months, especially sugar, salt, and rice and coconut. Right? Whether we could have handled it more wisely, more smartly, yes, we could have. But the root causes we all know. All these elements were from broken systems of production. So when the production has been destabilized for years and years, there are certain times you will get a problem. And the only solution now is probably for shortages to import early. That's the only mistake that we did, trying to manage it without importing. Now we are learned the hard way. So I think there won't be any problems going forward. But we are strengthening all of this, the salt production, we are strengthening the coconut production, we are strengthening sugar. We will ensure that the productivity is up in the local production, but still we will have to depend on imports until people realize sugar is bad for health. So I think on the vehicle imports also there was still a huge ha-ho about why did you penalize the middle class, about putting a significant tax on vehicles because people forgot that in the first place it was banned, right? It was banned and there was no option to buy a vehicle and the prices were very high. So the government had to decide on the tax revenue that we need to collect. So we are expected to collect 15.1% of the GDP as our tax revenue, and I'm happy to say we are 18% above the target in the first quarter, right? So what did we do? We had to take a decision with the central bank and the treasury. How do we get this about another 400 billion to the kitty without hurting majority of the people? Without, I'm being very strongly saying, without hurting anyone, what is the option we have? Okay, we have option of letting go of $1 billion and collecting 400 billion taxes, and we are on track now. So the opening up vehicle imports with higher tax bracket has given us a cushion in tax collection. A money which was not supposed to be spent, money which was in deposits, monies which were probably in trunks under bed, has been now brought into the economy by the richest people of our country, right? So that is a tactical move we had to do. Yes, going forward, we understand taxes are very high and it should come down over a period of time, making it affordable for the middle class. And then there was, I think I was accused mostly on Facebook for charging the IT sector. The IT sector professionals had a tax early. Now there's a 15% tax. But what was agreed with the IMF was a 30% tax. But nobody talks about that we negotiated it down to 15%. Why 15%? Because it's a global minimum tax. So when you say global minimum tax, if you are not taxed in Sri Lanka, you will anyway get taxed somewhere else. Now, since we have multiple logic, the one who gets a majority is penalized, and one who gets the lowest amount will get a seat. That is how the system was, which we liked early because we were 3%. Right? So, some say that you should have changed the election before the law before you had the election. No, we wanted to make it more democratic, more representative. And not even in a previous election, the ruling party has won the majority, because even we didn't know about local bodies. All this time it was done by Porto and UMP together. Because you can't form a local government without a coalition. That's how the structure works. So anyway, just to explain to you, we still stand by the policy that we had as a party. I remember Anura coming to Australia and even in Canada and US, people asked, what will happen if you get 107 in the parliament? That question was specifically asked from Anu, right? So what did he say? If 107 is given, that means the society expects NPP to rule, and we will talk with every other individual to get the 115 and form a government. That was the policy. So that policy still stands for us in the locality also, right? So we don't have to really take it seriously on the accusation that we are getting, but that is how things are. So apart from all of this, I'm not trying to bring excuses, but what I'm trying to do is to bring you to the context why we made the change, and the context where we took the government, and what are the things that has been happening within 6 months, and what are the things that we failed to achieve. And lastly, now View as a community, I think it's the smallest community when compared to Sydney and Melbourne, and Perth also has a large community. Yeah? So Adelaide also have a large community than yours. Okay, so let's grow this. This is the capital now. So anyway, just to see that how do we collaborate going forward, right? So again, I'm being very clear here. I am representing the government. We all, including Anura, we are the government, right? Party is party, government is government. So we need to distinguish these two, because how we deal with the party to get towards election, to ensure politics are done, we can still engage with the party with the structure. But when you are dealing with the government, you are dealing with Chathuranga as the Deputy Minister of Industries. So the way we can deal is little different to way we dealt before December. Your WhatsApp call, your idea, your solution cannot be implemented by me just because I am the Deputy Minister of Industries. So what it will need to go through the right routing. If it's to go through the BOI, it has to go through the BOI. If it has to go to the IDB, it will have to go to the IDB. If it needs more deliberation and process, it has to go through that. So the way that we engage December to now, before December and now, people have a little bit of a frustration. I understand that, but we need to understand what has happened. At the same time, the party structure, that how it managed the community and the citizens before the election has also changed, because most of us have now got official responsibilities. We can't, change caps every night, right? We have to focus on the work that we have. So therefore, the engagement levels have dropped. So we are aware of it, but we will build those structures back again within next 3 to 6 months, which we are aware that there is a gap. And in the collaborations, in terms of how do you get involved in the country, so there was a mistrust early, there was a risk of economy, but I think we've been able to remove it to a great extent. So if you do have excess money, please do invest in Sri Lanka, right? In forms of deposits or in equity funds. We do have few good equity funds, which in turn will invest in the stock market and the SMEs. So if you get into invest in some of our dollar equity funds, you will get a very good return. Just search for it, right? If you have some excess money, I'm saying. And then the other thing is the ability of you all to, the business community here, we have very good set of SMEs there who are willing to reach markets. They don't have market access. So as a community, if you can decide a particular product to be introduced on a particular month to your community, please do that. It won't harm anyone. It just improves the capacity of the local people. And then going forward, we are doing some very significant changes in the investment horizon. Number one is getting our land banks ready. You would have seen yesterday or day before, the tourism minister, deputy minister very clearly explained there are 1,000 acres of land now available and demarcated out for tourism. Please come and invest. So similarly, for industrialization and business, we are now demarcating close to 10,000 acres of land across the country. All these years, we have had only 5,500 acres for industrialization, right? So our goal by 5 years to bring it to 20,000. So I have 178 business proposals in my hand to start manufacturing. Everybody is asking land in the Western Province, we don't have. Yeah. And we don't have enough facilities to ask them to go to Hambantota and Kilinochchi and Anuradhapura and all that. So that needs to happen. The infrastructure has to build. And on the other side, so we are keep on allocating land and building property. So there will be opportunity for people or in the diaspora also to think these are the opportunities in fisheries, these are the opportunities in agriculture, these are opportunities. You have gone in what's the change that you're on වෙනස් වෙලා නැහැ. කාණ්ඩුවයි රජයයි කියන්නේ දෙකක්. එහෙම කිව්වට තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right, but then when you really look at it, it's basically you had 1.3 million government servants and you added 50 from NB. That's what has happened. You had 1.3 million government servants. Now including Chathuranga, you have added 50 to the lot. Right? So it's a very significant change that we have to do. And to be very fair by the government servants, they don't have the capacity built. The senior lot is quite capable, and even the second layer, there's no third, fourth layer. All empty, right? So the capabilities has to be built, mindset has to be changed. It will take a while, but we are driving with the limited servicemen who are capable and willing to make this change. And some ministries have got very strong support, some have not got. So therefore, we have to work with the lot that we have. And that is where I will end my initial explanation, so you can ask questions. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all, and it's a very happy evening to see you all there, because the change that we made, I think it was mainly driven from the diaspora, because no other party had that support. And two things, I think. One is your family there considers you as educated and well read, seen the world, and who probably would know the right thing. So when you recommend this time we should make a change, I think your family circles believed in it, and that voice, that noise went across, right across the country, especially getting that 43%. I'm very much quoting this 43%. That 43% is what we got this time also, because statistically it aligns, because it says 43% of the country realized the need of the change and made a bold move. And that includes most of you and your family who was there, and the level of support that you did with, having dinner nights and kottu nights, and all these things mattered. So I think as a country we should be proud of the change we made, but it's not the end, it's a beginning. I'm being very open here, speaking in front of a camera, I'm okay. In my mind, this is a 15 to 20 year battle. There's nothing in between, right? So the strength of the same strength, the power that we had to win the election has to be kept at it for the next 10 to 15 years. There's no relaxation, there's no sleeping, there's no easiness that we should take. Why? The drug cartel is strong, the mafia is strong, certain businesses are very strong, and they just need a single point of entry to attack us and demolish this change, right? And that also includes 30% of the government service. They are not getting a single chance to do corruption now. Why? Leaders are not endorsing it. If you get caught, you are in. That's it. And that's very strong. The whistleblowing process has started. Each of our ministries has posters now. If you ever been asked for a bribe, if you see something wrong happening, there's a hotline that you can call to. The investigation will take place. So when people say there's no change, you need to come and see the change. Because the people who say there's no change are the ones who are afraid of the change. It has already happened. So I'm just convincing you with my presence what has really happened on the ground. And please do visit and see around, talk to Uber drivers and people that you used to do early, to see that how things are changing on a daily basis. Thanks. I'll open up for the questions. Yes. I'll give this mic to them and I'll give this.
Yeah. Thanks for your lovely presentation. I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate what's happening back in Sri Lanka. Now, what you said was, but Bandaranaike said, S.W.R. Bandaranaike said in the 1950s, he said, never give power to J.R. Jayawardena and never take power from J.R. Jayawardena. That's what's happening right throughout the last 75 years. What I say in short, that say religion, I have no problems with any religion. So I learned a lot in Australia about the religions, about the ethnicities, etc., etc.
It's an idea, it's a suggestion.
Yeah, but I'm reiterating what you said, which you did not say so many things, because maybe you are not born.
Thank you, I think. I would come in briefly since that you brought it up. So, number one is that the English education, there is nothing called English education, it's the English language. So the English language skills will be brought into preschool level and to schools, because the current problem is we don't have enough teachers who can, even we have the Dvibhasha, the policy, from grade 6 there are not enough teachers, but English as a language is a priority in the new education reform that is going to happen. And on the religion stuff, it's very much attached to our culture. And I think the way that we need to look at is whether the government will use religion as a discrimination tool or a religion as a way of making government decisions. But if you really look at the majority of the country is religious. I think the developed world it might not be, and because education system has evolved over a period of time so that you can respect and you can understand the economic roadmap is done, I think there will be more engagement, more trust, more people who left us in 83 will, look back again at Sri Lanka. And from a reforms perspective, I think the constitution should change and constitution will change, and it will take a little time. As I said, we have to take things bit by bit, piece by piece, stabilizing. I think we are still at the point of stabilizing power. So stabilizing power does not mean elections itself. You need to stabilize power in various forms. The business community has to be stable, religious communities has to be stable. So there are powerhouses in the country, so that is the process we are going through. So I think with that trust, with that support, the constitutional change will also be supported by the people. And we do know how the world has worked. Now, if you take countries like Chile, they had a revolution, but when they brought in the constitution, people defeated it. So you need to build trust, you need to make it normal, you need to make them part of it. So the constitution change is not something a government can do just because you have 159. So I think that process is what you are taking. So what you are trying to do is ensure the basic needs are fulfilled, schools are made, education, health, transportation is fixed, allowing people to be part of the economy. And when everybody feels that there's a fair playing field, I think people will be open to debate very difficult topics. Yeah. Huh?
What happened in the election in North area?
North area, I think it's similar thing. I think their trust for the president, Taleva, Anura, I think they still love Anura and Harini. I think they still love Anura and Harini, but in the locality, you all know, we had one politician in North, right? Now we have 13 in the parliament, right? So for people to build trust on those politicians, it will take a little time. So people had to trust for locality the ones they already knew and natively supportive the language and the philosophy, the relationships they had with the especially ITAC, the TNA, those politicians they had to choose in this election. So we have some presence now, at least we are the opposition. So politics in North for NPP is quite tough. Number one, the philosophy. Number two, the language. Number three, the presence. Now what we now have is parliamentarians and certain amount of local politicians. It will take time. But the trust that people had for the NPP, we will have to prove it. Of course, within 6 months, we haven't probably done enough. We opened few roads, we showed them we do care, we went and tried to understood, I went there, I think all of the ministers went there to have discussions on how to develop. So it will take a little bit of time for people to see the difference. And simplest thing, we still don't have the air connectivity from Jaffna to Colombo, which we had. So, so there are basics that we need to do.
Minister, the measures you stated are quite positive, but my concern is any actually idea or plan to introduce any, I know that to enact a new constitution long term, in the interim, at least to fully implement the 13th Amendment Constitution? Is any consideration?
No. No consideration.
No.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I got a few questions, sorry.
Yes. Sorry, we are here.
Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you very much for your talk. It was a pleasure and a privilege to listen to you, and we must also thank the High Commission for facilitating this. I'm an engineer by profession, so can I keep this simple and ask a simple question? How can we help as a community? So is it, you mentioned infrastructure, investment, tourism, but people like us can also help through networks, addressing specific issues you have, specific constraints, whether it's the railways or irrigation and so on. So amongst the Canberra community may be small, but amongst us we have a lot of experience, local contacts and so on. And you being IT literate, can I just suggest even a very simple website on your one, saying, look, you're looking for X, either knowledge transfer or contacts or whatever in the field of engineering, and we can respond to that, because the questions that have been asked have been about religion, politics, what happened in the past. Let's look at the future.
Yeah.
And if you tell us in simple ways, what do you need, I'm sure a lot of us can rise to the occasion and help you. We are very encouraged by what we've seen so far, and long may you continue on this 20-year journey you started. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and I think that's a demand that's been there for the last few months. So I think the mechanism for inquiries and digital inquiry management and ideation, to be very frank, we didn't have the manpower and the bandwidth to get the influx of things. Now I'll give you a very simple example from my experience. So I hired a few people from the private sector to work with me on my personal staff. And I had to increase my mailbox 5 times within last 6 months, because people understood Deputy Minister Deputy Minister at industry.lk is responding. So that is what I'm trying to give you, is not everywhere it's like that yet, right? So at the same time, when that comes, where do you pass the query to? When somebody sends me a idea that should be looked at by the Education Ministry, whom do I send? Would they respond in equal empathy and equal manner? No. So we don't have that structure yet. But yes, we should have that structure, at least for specific ones. I'll tell you a few things that we can think of. Now, I am also heading the business model creation for transportation. So Bimal appointed me to it. So we have a parliamentary, subcommittee around it. So I did, with that, my scope, I published it out for people who has ideas in the transportation to say. We've got 41 proposals, right? Very good. So similarly, I think rest of the ministries also have to step up into this, feeding out and bringing in the knowledge and giving people opportunity. There's enormous amount of structures. Every ministry has a consultative committee in Parliament. It's a matter of somebody who's leading and thinking innovatively and taking that step. So while, as I said, December too early, I would have tried to do everything. But now I am very precisely focusing on my particular vertical, trying to show this is possible. So my job now is to show something tangible in the Ministry of Industries and replicate it out to the digital ministry, because they can take it across, because that's how things are happening now. But your concern is very clear. People don't have a place to bounce off their ideas. People don't have a place to send a proposal. People don't have a way to be part of the change. But there are enough physical structures, but physical structures are not supportive enough. So as a government, as politicians, as government officials, we have to transform fast. I think that's slow, I admit, but we'll try to do much as I can to change the scope of it. Good thing is, from a political party perspective, the NIO is reforming again, restructuring from this month onwards. I hope that team, which was us 6 months ago, the new team will take it forward.
Just a quick comment. So this is where the High Commission comes.
Yeah.
And if you can garner, what you need,
Yeah.
there are lots of us
Agree.
who are
Agree.
prepared to help. But
There's no place
investing
to.
in Sri Lanka, perhaps not to many of us.
Yeah.
But as
From a knowledge
professionals,
perspective,
we would
yes.
love to do that. Knowledge transfer, training, scholarships,
Yeah.
employment opportunities. So that is something really we should be talking.
I think let's do this. Let's pick up few things which we can do for a quarter or 6 months and just do that one. Because if you really look at the overall spectrum of it, we don't have the bandwidth to manage that. So we hope the government servants will do it going forward. Now the expectation is the politician to handle it. It's quite tough. So if I get one of my additional secretaries to call her and say, this is the project we are doing for SMEs, why don't you get the Canberra team involved? I would love to do that, and I will motivate and give it, but they are still driven by spoke. You need to pinch and say, let's do this, let's do that.
Thank you.
So it'll take a little while. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming over and briefing us on what's happening over there, and more so for making your efforts to materialize the change that everybody is looking forward to, and that's great. And a few things that like, one is a specific question, the other two are maybe suggestions. You mentioned introducing some of the products over there to the SMEs. One main problem, because I have a little bit of experience in this, because my wife is into doing that, like cinnamon and black pepper and things like that. One of the main problems is this bringing, making this link between the producers and getting the quality product. So that's the main issue there. So if the government can involve in some way that the people who are manufacturing them are published in a website or something. I know people are doing it on a private basis, but there is no guarantee that the quality is there. So that's one. So if there is a proper website so that people can obtain these products and then deal with them, that's one. The other one you mentioned about depositing whatever excess money probably people are having. And I think at the time of election, you were discussing about some sort of a bank maybe to do something like DFCC or IDB or whatever, a government bank who is having certain projects in mind and in the horizon. Like this is what we are going to do, so that people can contribute and then make deposits. So the money will go to these projects, and there is this government sort of underwriting. So that's the other suggestion. The third one is a specific question. You being the Deputy Minister for Industry Plus Entrepreneurship Development, have you had, I don't know whether you have had any chance to look into this over the last few months, but is there any sort of a high-level framework in mind as to how this is to be brought about in Sri Lanka? Thank you.
Yeah, so on the import side, we do have good suppliers. The problem with some of the suppliers is the reliability and the volume. So everybody wants to export, but when you ask to send a container, you can't. So basically that is the capacity building the ministry will take on. So we are going to do a program, I'm preempting, a program called Level Up, which we will select 1,500 high potential, high growth export businesses and allocate a government officer as a relationship manager and build capacity and capability over a period of time. So that program will, within that program, I'm pretty sure we can figure out who has this capability, capacity on that, and all for the SME sector, we are bringing a rating scheme, financial, quality, capacity, sustainability, a scoring system. So that will also enable external parties to select vendors when they are picking. So I think apart from that, the large scale businesses has the ability to do it, but it's especially the small scale ones that we need to, first is we need to get them to work together. They are all working individually. So when if you want a container, you obviously can't do it. So you need to collaborate. So this working together mentality is very weak. So we need to.
Talking about like small quantity, not even a container.
No, I know. Small quantities we can solve that for sure. I will get back to you. Please write to me. We have enough good suppliers to connect to. The other piece, you are about the banking sector. Yeah, I think the Ministry of Finance, now we have the Secretary also, who's aware of all the policies that we mentioned. Used as previously, I don't think we would do it, but as respect to the culture, we will be part of the religion as well, because that's very important for the society that we live in, and not that society is not so mature and advanced to think in various forms to have Sri Lankan government not being aligned to the religion. But again, the new reforms, I'm pretty sure some changes will happen, and that's been discussed, and I'll leave my comment there. That's as a personal view. Yes.
Thank you, Minister, for excellent speech and also explaining to us. Also explaining to us the government's priorities, three main priorities and challenges. Just briefly about the government direction towards economic recovery, Minister. First, I have to confess I am not an economist. I have very little knowledge of economic concepts. But my understanding is, please correct me if I'm wrong, from about 1963 to about 1976, the main focus of the government economic policy was the import substitution industrialization policy. And then drastically this changed towards 1970s, introduction of the neoliberal policy, so-called the new economic policy by the right-wing Jayajayawardena government, which was focused, I suppose, was my understanding as a non-economist, to create a more export-oriented economy. By doing that, unfortunately, the local level of local production drastically reduced. For example, our local things, even the traditional exports like tea, rubber, and coconut is now dead, almost. And also, shamefully now, we have to even import salt. So things have changed a lot, really. And so this, although there was a change in 1994, Chandrika Kumaratunga continued with the same neoliberal policies, then the Mahinda Rajapaksa, then the Yahapalana, and so your government, Minister, So far, I can't see any change. So my basic question is, are you planning to absorb some? I know there may be some negative aspects of the import substitution policy. Are you going to absorb some positive aspects, in particular towards increasing the local production? This is a very drastic thing. That's my question. And also related to question, Minister, what's the government's strategy towards resolving the national question? Because 16 years after the end of the civil war, we are back to square one. And also, the very positive aspects, for example, the voting pattern from the presidential election to the general election, a sizable majority of the ethnic minorities, in particular the Tamil people of the northeast, voted for the NPP government. I think they had very high expectations that there would be, because under the Sinhala Buddhist governments, since the independence, the ethnic minorities were discriminated against, and their expectation was shattered. So, but unfortunately, the local election, we can see significant. So what's the government strategy, for example? Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for two questions. So, when you really look at the neoliberal economics, and it's a thinking pattern of government. Actually, neoliberal economics and open economics, two different things. So, neoliberal economics means basically government moving out of the market and allowing market to manage all those things. I don't think that concept was very well brought into Sri Lanka. It was more of a opening up the economy, or opening up the economy without understanding the core competencies of the country. Now, even when I went around Australia meeting all these, they have national interest, they have national production. They also support certain industries as core industries, which is threatening to the security of the country, which is especially the food security, right? So basically what happened along the years was, whilst we opened up the market, we did not focus on strengthening our production. So here the current government's policies, we will be open to market, we will be open to FTAs, we will be open to liberalization, but we have now clearly demarcated which industries that the government will support and strengthen, especially the ones with essential goods and services, especially the ones in energy, telecommunication, banking. Those ones, government will also be part of it. So we will strengthen that. So I think the neoliberal policy is over. That means the policy of government not intervening to market and let the market handle everything, that is over. So we are intervening in various ways, either through the government being part of it, either government intervening into market through regulation, either the government organizing the market like cooperatives and stuff. So we will be part of the market. So I think what happened all these years, we can't put it into any economic philosophy and explain, because that what happened did not had a plan. So I think every other country, if you take even the developed nations, now even the US is talking about manufacturing again. Australia is also talking about manufacturing, because when you let go of manufacturing to a certain extent, you destabilize the country's economy, because your dependence is too much to the external world. So I think entire globe have kind of now understood what is the minimum level of production that you need to have. So I think we are very clear about it, and there will be a lot of support for local manufacturing, and some of the things we will have to let go. There is no point, subsidizing and keeping it forever while the consumer is also suffering and the industry is also need to improve it. So basically what we'll do is we will have various industries which are export oriented, we will 100% support, which we are doing now, and their supply chain we are strengthening, like the coconut tea and the rubber. The other industries we will clearly demarcate which ones we can do competitively, we will support. Once we can't, we will have to agree on a time period, 5 years or 3 years, and slowly wind it down. There is no way that we can keep subsidizing industries and protecting industries to that extent, because we have to be part of the global value chain. There is no way out for us. On the national problem, I think you are right that the governments thus far after 2009, there was golden opportunity to reconcile and nothing has happened. So from the processes of seeking truth, we have not moved ahead. There's a lot of gray areas starting from 83 to the 2009. From reparation, have we really reparated the losses of those communities? No, we have not done. So this government is keen on reparation as a priority. That is why this budget has allocated the largest amount of funds to North and East and even the hill country for the last several years. Because from a philosophy perspective, we feel the economic opportunity, equal economic opportunity can also solve part of this problem. And secondly, if you really look at the policy book, we have very clearly articulated that we will strengthen the language services in those areas so that the people can communicate with the government in their own language. That is a big gap already we have. And then land rights and also unnecessary military occupation reduction. So these few things will happen within this 1 or 2 years. At the same time, we will have to start where we left